That's all it took to destroy her. Rebecca Chen had survived boardroom battles, media scandals, investor revolts, and 3 attempts to steal her company. But she couldn't survive what the waiter said. The restaurant was buzzing. Deal makers and power players filled every table. This was her world. Expensive, exclusive, successful. She sat alone at the corner table, checking her phone for the 5th time. Another date canceled. Another excuse. Another evening pretending she didn't care. The waiter approached to clear her untouched wine glass. "Waiting for someone?" he asked politely. "No," she lied. "Just me tonight." He nodded, started to walk away, then turned back. "Can I tell you something?" She looked up, expecting a compliment or a pitch. Everyone wanted something from her. But what he said wasn't flattery. And it was 7 words that cut deeper than any hostile takeover ever could. "Maybe they're not intimidated. Maybe you're just cold." The room kept buzzing. But for Rebecca Chen, everything had just gone silent. Her phone lay face down, silent for once. For a rare moment, she was just a woman having dinner alone, breathing between meetings and expectations. Across the room, unnoticed by almost everyone, sat a man with tired eyes and a posture shaped by responsibility. He wore a simple button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up, hands rough from honest work. His name was Daniel, a single father, a man whose world revolved around school lunches, late-night homework, and the quiet fear of not being enough. This dinner wasn't a luxury for him. It was a reward. A cheap pasta dish, after a long week paid for with overtime, he nearly spent twice over. When it happened, it was sudden. Too sudden for dignity or preparation. The CEO's breath caught mid-sip, her eyes widening in confusion and panic. Her hand went to her throat. At first, those around her didn't understand. They thought she was coughing, maybe choking on a laugh. Then her chair scraped back sharply. The color drained from her face. Panic moved faster than thought. The room froze. Someone stood up. Someone else shouted for help. A waiter dropped a tray, glass shattering on the floor. But in those first critical seconds, no one moved with purpose. No one except Daniel. He saw it instantly. Maybe because he'd spent years reading subtle signs. His daughter's asthma attacks. The way her breathing changed before danger arrived. Maybe because life had trained him to act instead of hesitate. And he was on his feet before his mind caught up, crossing the room in long strides. "Move," he said calmly. Firmly, not loud, but impossible to ignore. He didn't ask who she was. He didn't wait for permission. He positioned himself behind her, wrapped his arms correctly, and applied pressure with precision learned not from manuals, but from lived urgency. Once, twice, the 3rd thrust dislodged the obstruction. She gasped, coughing violently as air rushed back into her lungs. The room exhaled as one. Applause broke out, uneven and shaky. Someone cried. The waiter knelt, asking if she was okay. The CEO leaned forward, hands on her knees, breathing hard. Alive. When she looked up, her eyes met Daniel's. "Thank you," she whispered, voice unsteady. "You saved my life." He nodded once. No smile, no speech, no attempt to linger. He stepped back. He retrieved his jacket from the chair and returned to his table. He paid his bill quietly, and before anyone could ask his name, before security arrived, before gratitude turned into spectacle, he walked out into the night. By morning, the story was everywhere. Social media buzzed with headlines and shaky phone footage. Mystery man saves CEO. Hero disappears after dramatic rescue. The company released a statement of gratitude. Interviews were requested. Commentators praised courage and humility. but no one knew who he was except the CEO. She couldn't stop thinking about him, not the rescue itself, though that replayed in her mind often. But the way he left, no expectation, no desire to be seen. In a world where everyone wanted credit, he wanted nothing. She instructed her team to find him quietly, respectfully. It took time, and cameras caught only fragments. Credit card receipts led nowhere at first, but eventually a name surfaced. A modest apartment, a daughter in middle school, a man working 2 jobs, one of them night shifts, to keep a fragile balance intact. When she stood outside his building days later, she felt nervous in a way she hadn't in years. This wasn't a boardroom. This wasn't power. This was personal. Daniel answered the door cautiously, surprised to see a woman dressed simply. No entourage, no cameras. "It's you," he said, recognition flickering across his face. "Yes," she replied softly. "May I come in?" His apartment was small but warm. Toys neatly stacked, school drawings taped to the fridge, the smell of dinner lingering in the air. She noticed everything. The life built not on ambition, but on devotion. "I didn't come to thank you," she said after a moment. "I did that already. I came to understand you." He shrugged lightly. "There's not much to understand. Someone needed help." "You could have stayed," she said. "You could have told your story." "I have a daughter," he replied. "She was waiting for me." That was the moment something shifted inside her. All her success, all her wealth suddenly felt thin compared to the gravity of that statement. They talked about life, about fear, about responsibility. He never once asked her for anything. Not money, not opportunity, not recognition. And that more than the rescue itself humbled her deeply. Before she left, she asked one more question. "If there's anything I can do for you, anything, please tell me." He thought for a long moment. "Just make the world a little safer," he said, "for people who don't get headlines." She nodded, and she meant it. Weeks passed. Then months the story faded from the news cycle, replaced by louder scandals and shinier distractions. But behind the scenes, things were changing. Daniel received a call offering flexible work hours, better pay, health benefits. No mention of the CEO, just an opportunity that fit his life instead of consuming it. His daughter's school received new funding for emergency preparedness. CPR training programs expanded across the city, sponsored quietly by a foundation newly focused on everyday heroes. And the CEO, she changed too. In meetings, she listened more. In decisions, she paused longer. She began attending events anonymously, learning how people lived when no one was watching. Here, she stopped measuring success solely by growth charts and started asking who was being protected by progress and who wasn't. They never became close friends. They didn't need to. But once a year, on the quiet anniversary of that night, she received a handwritten note. Short, simple. "She's doing great in school. Thank you." And once a year, Daniel received 1, 2, still breathing. Still grateful. No cameras, no headlines. Just 2 lives forever altered by a moment of selfless action. Because sometimes the greatest heroes don't stay to be applauded. They fade into the crowd, carrying the weight of ordinary love and quiet courage. And sometimes the people they save go on to change the world. Not because they were rescued, but because they finally understood what truly matters. The night began like any other, the kind that slips quietly into routine and never asks to be remembered. Outside, the city hummed with its usual impatience, car horns, footsteps, distant sirens. But inside the restaurant, time seemed slower, wrapped in amber light and soft music. It was the sort of place where people came to feel successful, even if only for an hour. Polished tables reflected crystal glasses. Conversations floated in low, confident tones. At a corner table sat the woman many business magazines had named most influential more times than she could count. To the public, she was a symbol, sharp, unstoppable, brilliant. To herself tonight, she was simply exhausted. Her phone lay untouched beside her plate, a rare act of rebellion against the constant pull of responsibility. She had chosen this restaurant not for prestige, but for quiet, and for a moment to breathe without being watched. She lifted her glass, letting the familiar ritual calm her nerves. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still exists and love is strongest when it's patient and respectful, please like, comment, and subscribe to Heartverse Stories. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that need them. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Globe.